Randall Flagg. Randall Flagg, or one of his other many aliases, is the main antagonist of the Stephen King universe and a servant to the ultimate evil. The Crimson King. Flagg has appeared in many of King's works as a powerful and charismatic embodiment of evil. In his early life, Randall's father gives him to a mill owner to learn the ways of man. However, by age 13, he got bored and burned down his house and sought to find his real father. Over the years, it is implied Flagg learned the ways of dark magic, becoming a powerful sorcerer and quasi-immortal. His goals typically center on bringing down civilizations through spreading destruction and sowing conflict. Flagg first appears in King's novel The Stand, where 99.4% of humans fell victim to a human-engineered virus. Through dreams, some survivors are lured to Flagg. He runs his group with strict laws, punishing disobedience through torture and crucifixion. In this book, some of Flagg's history was revealed, like being part of certain groups. His main role is in the Dark Tower series, where he is an overarching antagonist to Roland Deschain, who he torments thoroughly. His ultimate goal is to climb the Dark Tower and crown himself god of the multiverse, not to bring order, not to impose some grand vision, just to plunge every world into chaos. The fact that he doesn't want to rule, but instead spread chaos throughout every world for the fun of it, is what makes Randall Flagg's mind so twisted. Kefka Palazzo is the main antagonist of Final Fantasy VI, who is well known for his nihilistic personality and maniacal laughter. He was chosen to be the first experimental Magatech knight in the Gestalian Empire. However, the imperfect nature of these early experiments drove him violently insane, turning him into a nihilistic madman with a newfound hunger for destruction and misery. He also possesses an infamous and sadistic sense of humor, finding joy in the deaths and suffering of innocents, an example of which is when he poisons a river surrounding a castle to obtain victory, which kills the entire population of the castle. Kefka cackles to himself, declaring there is nothing better than music composed of hundreds of voices screaming in unison. Kefka's need to inflict suffering, which he does purely for his own amusement, drives him to continuously greater heights, culminating with the ruination of the entire world and the deaths of countless creatures. Kefka ascends to become the god of magic, and through this decides life is meaningless and everything should die. When this ideal is challenged, Kefka flies into a rage and states he will destroy all reason for defying his ideology and that the concepts of love and hope are worthless. What makes Kefka so unsettling is that his cruelty isn't driven by anger, ambition, or even madness. It's driven by pure enjoyment. He destroys because it amuses him. His laughter isn't random insanity. It's the expression of a mind that sees destruction as beautiful, chaos as art, and suffering as a joke. Dr. Moreau is the main antagonist of H.G. Wells' 1896 science fiction novel, The Island of Dr. Moreau. Once a celebrated physiologist, Moreau was exiled from civilization when it was discovered he was performing vivisection upon animals. He relocated himself to an island in the South Pacific. On his island, Moreau built a laboratory where he continued to try and perfect his process. He obtained animals through informal channels and then proceeded to dismantle them with the goal of reassembling them into a humanoid form, capable of mimicking human posture and behavior. Any of his failures were released into the jungle, where they established a village. A challenge Moreau faced was the regressions of his creations to their prior animalist instincts, which angered him greatly. To keep them in check, he created laws that banned animalistic activities. Moreau felt no empathy for his victims. He didn't see pain as cruel, instead an insignificant and unavoidable side effect of his experiments. His barbaric ways are highlighted when a subject breaks the laws and flees to avoid being operated on again. The protagonist, Edward Prendick, takes pity on the creature and shoots it to spare it from having to suffer through more operations. Ultimately, Prendick escapes the island and returns to civilization. However, his psychological state is permanently altered as he is no longer comfortable with humans, as they all seem to him to be, about to revert to an animalistic state. Prendick couldn't return back to normal after seeing Moreau's grotesque experiments, after watching living creatures be torn apart, rebuilt, and then forced to mimic humanity. Prendick had the torment of living with Dr. Moreau's twisted legacy. The Corinthian is a major character in the Sandman comic book series from the DC universe and is meant to reflect the dark side of humanity. He was a nightmare created by Dream, who is a personification of dreams, nightmares, fantasies, and imagination that rules over the dreaming world. The Corinthian is generally an impeccable dresser, but his most notable physical feature is his lack of eyes. In their place, a set of teeth in each socket, which he often hides with sunglasses. As an incarnation of the dark side of humanity, he was naturally monstrously sadistic. In Dream's absence, the Corinthian escaped to the waking world to take up serial killing, which was far pettier and small-minded than he was meant to be. Over the course of 40 years, he became a notorious serial killer, being famous for cutting out the eyes of his victims and eating them. He was greatly admired by other serial killers, many of whom were inspired to start by him. Instead of being a representation of human darkness, he preferred to satisfy his own sadistic pleasures. He ultimately gave up power and influence to act out his perverted urges. The Corinthian perceived this as a grand purpose, but was really just hurting innocent humans for nothing but his own immediate and sick pleasure.
The box. You opened it. I came.
Cold, relentless, and unforgiving are the words that best describe the leader of the Cenobites. Pinhead is the main antagonist of the Hellraiser film series. Originally human, Pinhead was a captain in World War I who survived and suffered immense PTSD and survivor guilt. He wanders the Earth after the war, living a hedonistic life, and eventually finds the Lament configuration. After solving it in his tent, he is impaled by hooked chains and dragged away to be transformed into the Cenobite Pinhead, a servant of the dark entity Leviathan. The Lament configuration is used to summon him and exerts a hypnotic influence on anyone holding it. Once solved, the Cenobites appear to deliver what they call pleasure beyond imagination, which is just unending torment. Pinhead's mind is the true horror. He is detached from empathy, only concerned with the balance of pain and pleasure, seeing suffering as both art and duty. His logic cold and methodical, making him a being whose obsession with torment has completely consumed what was once human. Nyarlathotep is one of the outer gods from the Cthulhu mythos, who serves as their messenger, heart and soul. Part of what makes him so twisted and terrifying is the intent behind his actions. Unlike the other outer gods, who are either indifferent to humans or unaware of their proportionately microscopic existence, Nyarlathotep has a very different human character. He appears across numerous stories by H.P. Lovecraft in many different forms, many of which are ghastly and capable of driving mortals insane when looking at him. However, in contrast to the other outer gods, he also frequently takes on a human form as an enigmatic male fashioned after an ancient Egyptian pharaoh. While not being the most powerful of the outer gods, he is still immortal and possesses power beyond limitless. He is an incomprehensibly cruel and evil monster who enjoys driving humans insane, finding the act to be more enjoyable than simple death and destruction. Nyarlathotep is fully aware that he is torturing and mentally abusing people and derives sadistic joy from this fact alone. As opposed to being a mindless brute, he is dangerously intelligent and calculating. He frequently employs deception, manipulation, and even propaganda to achieve his goals, and often mingles with humans in order to seal their doom. With limitless power at his disposal, it takes a uniquely incomprehensibly warped mind to ignore greater pursuits and instead torment lesser beings purely for sadistic pleasure.
Hello there. You're in super jail. I'm the warden, and you're a criminal.
This sadistic Willy Wonka-looking fella is the main protagonist of the Adult Swim series Super Jail. He is a pale man with a slender build, dressing in a purple tailcoat with matching slacks and a top hat, with one of his defining features being his gapped teeth. The warden's father was a warden in a regular jail and raised his son within it. Reflecting his abusive upbringing, the warden conceived Super Jail. This place is so insanely crazy and awful. When the warden thought about opening more, he was teleported to a strange, otherworldly court by the Time Police. This was because if he proceeded with the idea of making Super Jail a franchise, he would eventually declare world war and conquer the whole planet, enslaving and killing millions of people. He's so warped that even the idea of creating more super jails required cosmic intervention. The warden possesses magical shape-shifting powers, which he frequently demonstrates, ranging from a plate, an atom bomb, and a whole universe. His crazed nature is on display from the very first episode, where he pets a dead rabbit, which inspires him. Warden to put all his prisoners in bunny suits when he puts the rabbit's carcass on his head. Later in the episode, the suits arrive but half are werewolf costumes instead of bunnies, causing a divide in the prisoners. The Warden relishes in the chaos that exploded amongst them as they tore each other apart. Despite the unimaginable horror, the Warden genuinely thinks he's doing a good job. He believes super jail is a utopia, and all prisons should be like his. The cheerful delusion paired with cosmic power is what makes the Warden one of fiction's most disturbingly unhinged minds. The Shrike is a legendary being from Dan Simmons' fictional series The Hyperion Cantos. It is completely terrifying. The nature of the Shrike's origin is unknown due to the nature of time itself. However, we do know that it was sent back in time. It is roughly humanoid in shape while being 3 meters in height. It had an exterior made of metal, covered with an array of blades and thorns. The most terrifying ability the Shrike has is to travel through time and space. It was capable of vanishing and reappearing instantly anywhere and at any point in time. Its ability is so fast that it was able to slaughter or capture victims before they could resist, often attacking so quickly it appeared in multiple places. Death may be the best outcome when meeting the Shrike, as instead he may take you to the Tree of Pain. Here, he impales his victims on thorns where they would not die, but rather continue living while experiencing the full physical pain of impalement. This is where the Shrike's name is derived from, as a family of birds are also known for this. Thousands, possibly millions, have been taken by the Shrike and put on this tree. It is utterly indifferent to human suffering, carrying out its mysterious purpose, which I won't spoil, with a scale of torment that cements it as one of fiction's most twisted and terrifying entities. And there we have it, a few of the most twisted characters in fiction. I know there are plenty more. Tell me in the comments who you think is the most twisted, and let me know if you think I missed anyone, and if you subscribe, I'll give you a big smooch.